Is this you? Hey everybody, I'm Haven the Hare, and welcome to my campaign diaries for our running of Hoard of the Dragon Queen. This is episode 13. If you're paying attention to the dates when I've uploaded these, you'll notice that there was a very large gap between me uploading the last video and this one. Partially because, well, at the point in time I'm filming this, I had a lot of stuff going on in our lives. We unfortunately lost a few pets, passed away due to cancer. We then started having to pack because we bought a house, and then the entire state of Michigan went on lockdown, and we had stay-at-home orders, as well as I'm considered an essential worker being in the IT field. And I know I'm a cliche, I'm a white guy working in IT. And I've been having to work and unpack and move, and to do so with as little help as possible. So it's been very hectic. And we did, for a while, take a break from doing D&D and playing on Monday nights. But we did play for a few more sessions, so I'm going to try and crank these out as fast as I can and get them uploaded and recorded. But I have about 8 sessions of D&D that we did. But at the same time, we were doing D&D, but life was really hectic, so I didn't have a chance to come back and do the diaries. I'm really hoping to get back into the swing of that. Maybe if you're watching this and you like the idea, I'm actually thinking about trying to do these as a live feed on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or something afterwards. I don't know. D&D, and then I also teach sword fighting when we're not in the middle of a lockdown, but as something to do instead of or afterwards, maybe in the evenings, especially since I'm in the East Coast and there's a lot of people on the West Coast who might go to watch something maybe after sword fighting practice, coming in and doing a live feed in the evenings. So if you like that idea of me doing a live feed of actually doing these campaign diaries followed up with answering questions about how I did things and how I changed things and doing stuff like that, I'm more than willing to, and possibly do it with the idea of doing it live on Twitch and answering questions from the chat and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, please make a comment, do all that fun stuff. On with the show. When we left off, the group had just wrapped up their big fight pit at the Pair of Black Antlers, which was a complete side train. I mean, Hoard of the Dragon Queen never mentions it. I don't even know if there's anybody's ever put a fight pit in the middle of that bar, but it fit, and it made for a wonderfully great experience, especially when we had our visitors come in from overseas. And at this point, I have gotten permission that I'm going to start using the first names of the players when I want to talk about the player as opposed to the character, so that might be a little less confusing. I do know that was a little confusing, at least for me, even to keep track of it all. And I'm the one running all this stuff. So visitors come, they wrap up at the Black Antler, and we now have Remy and Fire still looking for Eddie while the rest of the party is leaving the Pair of Black Antlers, go across the street to the inn that is part of the Pair of Black Antlers, but a separate building, because at that point in time in that city, you can't have one or the other. It's either a sleeping establishment or a bar drinking establishment. Well, I just put it that the inn across the street was owned by the Pair of Black Antlers, and anybody who fought in the fight pit gets a free room over there. So they got 4 free rooms, and they're on their way. But Remy and Fire are still a little worried about the fact they haven't found Eddie since the fight pit stuff started. In fact, actually, since they arrived at the Pair of Black Antlers in Elturel. So that's where we pick it up. Fire and Remy are looking across the bar, wondering where Eddie is, trying to figure out what their next move is. And there's a tug at Remy's sleeve, and she looks down. Mind you, they had just watched the rest of their party, including Callie and Lutau and Arkin and Nahis, walk across the street. There's a tug at Remy's sleeve, and she looks down. And there's a Callie. But Callie just walked over there. But this Callie's dressed in a really drabby, nasty cloak and actually wearing some armor. And that Callie's really well dressed and just walked into the inn. And in Eddie's voice says, "Is this you?" As the person hands a pamphlet with on the back of it an image, a drawn image of Remy, but in an evening gown, in a ball gown. Remy immediately takes the flyer and tucks it, or starts tucking it away and asks, "Where did you get this?" But at the same time, like, "Who are you?" And they both come to the conclusion at the same time, it's Eddie. Eddie's disguised as a little girl. Eddie learned a new skill and decided that during the fight pit, since they're in the middle of Elturel, which is a humanoid city, kobolds really aren't necessarily super popular. and decided this would be a great time for him to experiment. And the only image that he had of somebody about the same size as him was Callie, being a halfling. So Eddie disguised himself as Callie and just kept his hood up. If anybody looked, he just looked like a young girl with a hood. And he skulked around and hid and had a good time. So they catch up. Everybody's really impressed with it, and they walk across the street, and they all check into the rest of the inn. They check into their rooms. I'm going to gloss over this. I will say there was a little interesting exchange when Eddie came in and saw that Fire had a little trinket on her side that looked like vines carved into bone that were entwining and slowly moving if you focused on it. Getting it identified by Callie, Callie immediately goes, "Oh, I know what this is," and threw it on the floor. And an entanglement spell cast from it. This was a gift from Elowen, who was at the fight pit and fought Fire, wanted to give her something and snuck this bone enchantment. So now she has a 1 per day casting of Entangle that she can throw this charm down and it will cast. In her room, Remy takes a closer look at the pamphlet and realizes that it is her in the back of it, and it is for Our Lady, the Weeping Mother. She asks around the next morning about the pamphlet, if anybody's seen this pamphlet. It was told that they were being handed out by pilgrims and by this religious group that had showed up, set up some tents on the outskirts of town. They held a few, ceremonies. They did a few of their services, and they packed things up and left. Last he knew, they said they're on their way to Baldur's Gate. Nobody but Fire saw the picture, and so she hides it away and doesn't answer any questions. In fact, Fire is very insistent on asking questions, and she hides it away. Fast forward, they then go back the next morning. They check in at into the back antler. They end up actually getting a few disguises and some costuming and stuff like that to hide their demeanor, since they just got done fighting in the fight pit, and there's a chance that those raiders or the Hoard, let me rephrase that, not the Hoard. They're looking for the Hoard, looking for the stolen treasure of Green Nest, and the raiders who did it might recognize them, since, like Nahis challenged, Sinrath right there in front of everybody. So they don some disguises, including Callie dressing like a farmer with a hoe, and Nahis putting on a yellow dress over the top of some of her armor, even. Lots of fun. They get their disguises, and then they're actually shown to a ship that they have. They're going to take a ship, because if they take a ship, they can sail across and end up at Baldur's Gate, hopefully a few days before the rest of the Hoard of the dragon. I keep saying that. I'm sorry. It is a Hoard. They have a hoard of gold. They stole a hoard of gold. But the treasure of Green Nest is making its way up the Sword Coast. They're going to get to Baldur's Gate before they do, if they sail. Great. They get on their boat. After a couple of my players requested a few man servants. Yeah. Anyway, they get a few extra people. They set sail on this boat. Now, the boat trip is more or less pleasant. Traffic is kind of slow going to Baldur's Gate from Elturel. It's really more used from Baldur's Gate going further out to the Sword Coast. But as they get close, they're about halfway there. About the midday of the next day, they come across 2 small boats with these large chains dragged across. And as they get closer, they get about 60 feet, is when they realize that the ships are full of orcs. And one of them steps forth and demands that they pay a toll, or they're not allowed to pass. Well, a little bit of tense negotiations. Callie tries to convince them to let them pass without paying anything, convince them that they didn't have anything. The orcs simply say that they'll take their lives and their ship, because obviously they got something. They got a ship with sailors on it. So they end up at that point that I want to say it starts off with Arkin causing a storm to go and lightning crashing down on the orc, who's the chieftain orc who's talking. Then arrows start to fly. They start throwing javelins. They're just out of range with the javelins of the orcs, though. The highlights of this battle, though, do include the fact that for the second time now, Callie cast Flight on Nahis. So now we have a flying half-orc barbarian that picks up Callie, flies her over to the top of the mast, and lands her on top of one of the boats, who then, from the top of it, is shaking her hoe and demands that they jump overboard after they, other lightning and people are dying. She managed to actually scare 2 of the orcs to leave, that are the 2 last orcs standing on the boat. So they jump overboard and fly away. Fire runs between the chains on the boats themselves after making another pass within he's flying people back and forth. Fly comes back, grabs fire, flies her over. Arrows are being shot from Lutau and from Remy to knock out a few more of the orcs. Overall, a really nice little encounter. They had a great time. They ended up killing them, stealing the 2 boats with only a few sails in the holes, attaching them to theirs, dropping pulled up the chains and stowed them away, and sailed on to Baldur's Gate. Nice little encounter. It was a lot of fun. That's my quick synopsis of chapter 13. A little bit of a river battle. We had finding out Eddie had some new spells. Eddie did level up, I think I want to say right before this session started. It was a nice little adventure. We kind of went pretty quick with it. It was a nice little encounter. Next episode, we'll find out exactly what's going on in Baldur's Gate. Did they get there in time? Do they find the hoard and treasure coming up from Green Nest up the Sword Coast? Who knows? Tune in next time. I'll hopefully get the next one posted relatively soon. If you have any questions about how I did it and everything else behind the scenes, feel free to watch my behind the scenes video of how I came up with the encounter, what happened with it, how it came into play, as well as how I wrapped up kind of the stuff with the fire pit and all that behind the scene goodness. If you want to help me support the channel, and again, I'm never going to throw any ads on this thing because I hate commercials just like everybody else. But if you want to help support me, pick up my dice bags or order a dice bag down below where I make chainmail dice pouches on Etsy, or order the card game I created called the 5-Minute Sword Fight down below as well. If you have any questions, interact with me. I'm more than happy to answer questions. I love talking about D&D and role-playing and being a dad and doing all this other stuff. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And remember, you make all of life saving throws. Oh. Life was really hectic, so I didn't have a chance to later on in that week then do the D&D record. And I will try and pick up at this point. Like I said, I'm just going to keep these quick. So this is what happened. They left. Eddie disguised spell. Oh, the pamphlet on the boat. By the way, Callie they take a closer look at the pamphlet. The pamphlet. I'm going to take this. I'm going to put this in the beginning to myself.